Good evening, I'm Julie Chen.
Wake up, everybody!
But first,
I cannot. On my daughter's birthday. Disgusting. Anybody want cake?
I want to welcome you guys all to my big brother funeral.
Can't find an individual to hate because I hate you all.
Welcome to Not Game All Personal. Hey, we are a Big Brother podcast here to talk about all things Big Brother. Almost messed that up there. More specifically,
Dangerous.
the finale of season 27. I'm Nathan. This is Tony. How are we feeling, Tony? We did it. Made it through another summer.
Made it through. Absolutely delighted. Dream scenario. You know me.
Dream scenario, like the outcome, or that it's over. What do we?
I
What
was
do
saying
you
the
mean
outcome.
by that? The outcome. Okay. You're happy.
So happy.
Great. I'm happy. We're both happy.
Man, we had 3 of the final 4, and we didn't get the winner. That's just crazy to me. I'm upset.
That is
about
very
that,
funny.
and only that.
Yes, I mean, to get that out of the way, I do have to congratulate you. I think it was over probably like 2 weeks ago, but I mean, credit to us. What, we had 4 of the final 6. Like that has never happened, and you had second and third place with Morgan and Vince. So rather impressive. I was sitting there holding on to hope that Ava could pull out a win. And that was never going to happen. So I feel like
unfortunately not.
I accepted defeat a while ago, which is why I completely even forgot that was still a thing. But yes,
That's
you
why
did
haven't
win.
Talked about it at all.
I legitimately. I think like once Lauren was gone, and it was like, well, Morgan and Vince are probably going to win the season, which they didn't. But spoiler.
Mm-hmm.
So congrats to you. You're
Thank
good
you.
at this.
I needed that. What can I say? I got skills.
You
I
had
did pick Jimmy.
You did pick Jimmy. You had Chelsea last year, and then 2 years ago you had Jag. So that's
I am
pretty
cooking on
good.
Big Brother right now.
You are. So I mean, kudos to you. Where do we start with this finale? Do we just start with the what everyone wants to hear, the winner? I mean,
I feel like that's the only place to start. I mean, we talked 4 days ago, so it hasn't been long. Like, the only thing that's happened is that. So yeah, let's get into it.
Yeah, well, as if you're listening to this, hopefully you know, Ashley wound up winning her first HOH of the season, which I did learn this is the first time that someone's first HOH was the last one ever. So that's a new record.
Wow.
And she ends
makes
up
sense.
evicting Morgan, taking Vince to the final 2, and wins by a vote of 6-1, which I don't know if you watch any exit interviews, but Morgan said that she kind of assumed Ashley would sweep, so her vote to Vince was more of she didn't want to be unanimous against him. So there's a chance like she might have even voted for Ashley if she was completely unbiased.
Yeah, that's fair. But that's the classic scenario where like voting for Ashley would almost invalidate her own game in a way because she played so closely with Vince for so long. I do think that they played distinct games, and they definitely more distinct games than we see a lot of times with duos like this. But yeah, I think that would have been foolish. Or I just don't love that logic of being like, no, this person should beat the person that I worked closest with and helped me get as far as I did in the game. That just seems odd to me.
Yo, that's actually a good point. I haven't thought about it like that, because like by voting against his game, she might be admitting that her game wasn't there, or she couldn't sincerely say she played a good game at that point. Because if she would have voted
with the jurors that she did all of it, because that seemed to be
that's true
the
too.
theme is that the jurors were like, "Oh, she made you do this," and he's like, "Not really," but yeah. I don't think there's anything he could have said based on the mentality of those jurors. I really don't know that there's anything Vince could have said. Not that Ashley didn't. She did very well, obviously, in the questions and presenting her game, and like just did well in all the jury liking her a lot. Like that was her social game was very good. But yeah, there was nothing he could have done, I think, at that point. And I don't think we realized how we thought that might be the case, but I don't think we realized to what extent there was like bitterness and frustration with him.
Yeah, and it's interesting because like I don't even know if I would describe this year as like bitterness. I don't know the word for it because I don't know if they're like frustrated, like, oh, you got me and I'm mad at you. It's more of just not respecting the way he went about it, which like maybe that is what bitterness is. But to me, it feels like a little bit different to like a Big Brother 19 situation. Um,
The whole thing is like so hard to quantify. Like that exact sentiment, like looking at just the way that they respond to him. Like if I took any player and like gave him mostly the game of Vince, it looks like a really solid game of Big Brother. I really think that's true. But there's something about the way that he interacted with people that just rubbed them the wrong way. Because there's been people who have like fake cried and convinced people that he was close to them and made a lot of final twos. Like that those things happen, and I don't think they're inherently bad game moves, but there's something about just the way that he rubbed them the wrong way that it just seems so negative. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, I think so. I think in my mind, there are like kind of two different things at play here. I think one, I do think a lot of them gave most of the credit to Morgan, and I would even say like rightfully so. Vince said this even on the live feeds, but like I think the second that he nominated Lauren, he knew his game was over because
Mm.
right there, the narrative is I'm doing this because of Morgan, and then Lauren goes home. So I think like after that moment, he just completely lost control of, and especially control of the narrative. And then I think the second thing that kind of was at play, which I think Keanu, I watched his exit interview today, and he alluded to this where I think he just wanted Vince to own the game a little bit more. Because even in the final speech last night, Vince was still like, well, yeah, you were all my final two. Like, I meant that. I did want to keep you all here. And they're like, stop it. Like, don't say that. Just like, and he finally kind of admitted that, like, Morgan and Lauren were his actual final twos. But even that doesn't make any sense. So I think, like, there is a way where you can have the same result of him as far as like competition wins and having that much power, getting people out, lying to people even. But I just still don't think he understands how they just wanted to hear a sincere answer as far as like, yes, I lied to you. Yes, I didn't actually mean that. And I don't think he ever gave them that.
No, and that was like the first question that was asked was like, were any of like because he's very emotional in the house, and I do think that a decent amount of it was genuine, but I think it would have gone a long way just for him to admit like, yeah, some of those tears were fake, some of those were just to try to get you back on my side, like I was trying to manipulate you. That's how the game goes. I think that would have at least done something, and you can say like, hey, yes, I made all these final twos and I did not know what direction I was going to go and who I was going to ride with until a few weeks in. That's how the game goes too. Like if you just admit some of these things, but trying to pretend like you were locked in with Morgan and maybe he didn't pretend that he was locked in with Morgan and Lauren for so long, but like, yeah, it's just tough to like convince even those things, even admitting the things that wanted him to admit, I just don't know if it would have done anything. And
No.
there's a part of me that's like that kind of sucks because I do think it was in some ways a very strong game of Big Brother, but like you said, like it just rubbed everybody the wrong way, and that matters. It just does.
I think here's the point I'm at, and maybe this is just like looking back in hindsight now that I know the results. Do you actually think it was a strong game of Big Brother, or was it just competition wins? Because
I
I
think it was
think
a
I'm
strong,
starting to land on the side where it
yeah,
was just competition wins. Like
yeah, but I feel like
what else did he do?
he survived longer than he should have based on like his threat level. Like I think he was a lot of people's best option to get out at points, and he continued to like stay in the game. And I don't know that that was entirely just based on comp wins. but I definitely see what you're saying. It is hard to like divide out comp wins versus everything else. I think there were some big strategic blunders, but I think there were also some like I don't know. I guess the strategic moves were interesting and not great a lot of the time. As I think
Well,
about it.
I think that's kind of my point. Is like you look at if you want to say like a well-rounded player, which I think like we can admit Ashley as a winner. Uh, the competitions are not there, right? So like you have to complete like she's not a well-rounded winner, okay? Like, and I don't mean that disrespect. I think she played a great game, but just not well-rounded, right? Vince, on the other hand, I would say the same thing, but almost worse, because like however many categories you want to list as far as like comp, strategy, social, whatever that list is, I don't think he has anything but comps, because like his strategy I don't think was good, and his social I think was horrible. And I think like how I determine that is like with these competition wins, like what did he actually do with them? I think the only social move he had was when he got Lauren to use her veto on him, right? That was like probably the one instance where it's like his relationship with someone else kind of like worked out for him there. But if you look at his HOHs, I think you can absolutely chalk it up to like other people making decisions for him, or just like not the best situation, like not the best outcome for his game. So I don't know. Like I think like now that the season's over and I'm looking back and I'm just kind of like, what would I credit his big move as?
Yeah, and maybe I'm getting blinded by like he was just such a front and center character or player the whole time, and so it felt like he had agency in the game. But yeah, so often that agency was just him making bad moves for him. Now, like, how would you balance that with like he still got deep in the game, like he got to final two, and he has to have done something right, or do you think it was just dumb luck, or people saw him as like a weak player because of these poor moves even?
I mean, I honestly think it's mostly comp wins, especially that second half. I think like him and
Yeah.
Morgan were pretty much untouchable. And again, like, could you chalk up her wanting to protect him as his social game? Sure, like you could make that argument. But like
Mhm.
once you got to the
The
jury
social game might be
phase,
too good at that point.
yeah, um, it's platonic social. Okay, we'll say
Mhm.
that.
Mhm.
But like once you get to the jury phase, like there was almost never a moment to evict him. So again, like I'm not saying that's a bad game, but I think by doing that, he allowed no opportunity to show how he could save himself outside of a competition. The only
Mhm.
time was when he was on the block next to Zach, and Zach went instead of him. And apologies, I can't remember the details of that, like how much was him, how much was other people. I'm sure he had a lot to do with it, right? But that was like the only moment where I think like again, you look at Ashley's game, which is zero competitions, all social. She was on the block two separate times on eviction night, and probably should have been the one to go. If you're looking her
Mhm.
next to Will, yeah, that was a mistake. Her next to Ava, yeah, probably keep Ava. And like those were probably not the smartest
Mhm.
decisions. But I think that's where she has a leg up on him, is because he didn't have any opportunity to show how his social game could keep him safe.
Yeah, that's fair. I do think the context of those specific scenarios, the vote to obviously in hindsight, the vote to keep Ashley seems foolish, but I understand the logic both times, and I don't think that those were like poor strategic moves by the people to keep her. But it was also her social game, so I understand what you're saying there. The way that we're talking about it right now feels like we're right, and maybe we just haven't gotten to talking about Ashley, but I feel like I don't have as much to say about Ashley as I do about Vince. Do you think that, and maybe you're different, so if so, let me know. But do you think this is more a case of Ashley winning the game and playing a super great winning Big Brother game, or Vince losing the game?
That's tough. I think, and I hate to cop out, say it's a little bit of both.
Hmm. That's fair.
I don't think this is the same, and this is why like I don't credit this as like a bitter jury. You know, because I think, like, again, Big Brother 19, I think that's more of a case where Paul lost the game. Big Brother 14, you know, Ian, good, solid game. Nothing against Ian as a winner. I would have voted for Dan. You know, I think Dan lost the game. I think in this season, and I feel like we've kind of said this in some form throughout the season, I think this was more of like who is making the least amount of mistakes, because we've said it, like everyone in the season was playing hard and almost everyone in the season was playing very poor. Like there weren't a lot of really good games. I think like both of us said like Morgan was probably the best out of these final three, but even she, like, I don't say it's flawless game. I think Ashley made the least amount of mistakes. In fact, I don't know if she made a single mistake. Now, did she have like the big flashy moves? No.
She took a 2-hour shower in the HOH's room the first night.
I mean, sure. That's probably her biggest mistake though, right? Like outside of that, like every read she had was correct. Every vote she was a part of, outside of her, you know, trying to change her vote, you know, whatever. But like every single week in the house somehow made her position better. And so like I do think it's a weird situation where it's both. I think she had a really good game, and I also think Vince kind of just fumbled when he could have had a winning game.
Yeah, I think that's absolutely fair. It's always going to be a little bit of both. I think there's very rare scenarios where it's entirely one or the other. I think, yeah, she didn't have many mistakes in her strategic game. And maybe I need to go back and listen to her speech again, because she laid out a lot of things that she was like, I did this, I did this, I did this. And I almost want to go back in the season and see, like, sometimes it's hard when people are closely aligned, like Will and Ashley, and they're kind of background players, to know who's actually doing what. And if it's like a group effort, or if Will is kind of pushing things more, or he's the one with the ideas, or Rachel, especially being attached to Rachel, because Rachel is an experienced player. So, of course, that's the case. So I would be curious how much, yeah, she didn't make a lot of mistakes. I would be curious to look at how many positive things she actually did, other than just, and I say other than, this obviously has value, but attaching yourself to people who are strong players, will keep you safe, and also will have like good pull in the jury house at the end. And I think that's extremely valuable. I don't want to diminish that by any means, but I'm wondering, like, yeah, like I said, maybe I have to go back and look, but the moves that she claimed, I don't know if as they happened, I identified them as like, oh, Ashley made this great move. And I think that's interesting to me. And like, it could just be I missed it, or we missed it, or everybody missed it. I don't know. But that would be my maybe pushback. But yeah, I don't think she made a lot of mistakes. Yeah, we mentioned a couple right there where she made some mistakes. But for the most part, yeah, I would wonder how many opportunities she had to make a mistake. And maybe not doing anything was better than doing something. But that's lame.
Yeah, I mean, I think part of the issue is, and we've seen this with Survivor too, where like they just don't know how to edit a social game. And I think when you're not winning competitions, you're not going to be the star of the episode. And because like I think like if you watch only the episodes, none of this is in there. Like it's just not. Which is unfortunate, because it's going to be hard to like retrace all those like live feeds. But I think like at the time, you know, like I just don't think they were advertised as like big game changing moves. I think it was just like a lot of little things, because like everything she said in her speech, like I'd agreed with. You know, I think like there, like the two things that stuck out to me was she like described her wanting to play the middle ground. She didn't want to be the biggest threat. She didn't want to be like the most likable person in there. Like she wanted to be in the middle, and I think that was like the most, like she wanted to be invisible essentially, and like that worked. She was invisible to the detriment of her not getting an edit in the episode, you know? And I think the other thing she said, and I thought this was a great line, you know, like she wanted to turn enemies into allies rather than vice versa, which is what Vince did, which was very funny. And like that is absolutely correct. Like the people that were on the opposite side of the house, like she mentioned, like when she saw Jimmy get voted out, when she saw Mickey get voted out, that's when she started the Judges Alliance alongside, Will and Rachel. I'm not saying like she gets sole credit there, but like she had a big part
Yeah.
of that in turn because she realized like, hey, these are two people that could be powerful in the game that I'm not working with, and there's an opening, And this again, same thing with Keanu. I think like watching her recover after Rachel and Will get out and still having allies in the game, to the point where she said like once jury hit, she realized every single person in here will take me to the final two, and so I think like it's it's such a hard game to be able to dissect as far as like here are her three big moves, and I think it's just again like mostly due to these shows like not really being used to social wins like this.
I think I don't disagree with most of that. I think I would push back that yeah, they don't know how to edit it, but like I don't know if I could quantifiably describe like a social game, really. Like it's a hard thing to really be like this is what a good social game looks like because I think we've seen a variety of different types of social games. Is it just making people love you? Maybe, but then you get voted out because you're the most likable, which is I think what happened to Will because they were like, "Oh, everybody loves you. You're a family man." And so yeah, maybe it is this like playing the middle even socially a little bit. Um but yeah, and it's surprising that nobody realized that she was like in good with everybody. And maybe it was the fact that the judges was a secret that people didn't see her as a bigger threat. Obviously, Morgan and Vince missed it, but I think they were good at challenges, so they were blinded by, oh, challenges are the most important thing. Um, but yeah, so social games are just so not quantifiable. It's one of those things where like you know it when you see it is the vibe I get. Where like I think for a while, and it's no secret, I wasn't a fan of Ashley. But like we've been saying for weeks, like she's in a like playing a solid social game. Like people enjoy being around her, and they don't seem to want to get her out. Um, I think the question, and this was kind of going back a little bit, but the question of whether or not he lost it versus she won it, maybe it would be answered in like, do you think if it was Morgan and Ashley in that final two, do you think Ashley has a strong enough game to hold up against Morgan? Or do you think Morgan would take that? And I don't know if we have an answer to
Yeah.
that. This is speculation mostly, but
I think it would be I do think Morgan would take it. I think it would be close. I still think Ashley gets a couple votes there, but I think Morgan would get the votes of maybe like Kelly and Keanu. But again, I think that's because uh they pretty much acknowledged Vince's moves as being Morgan's moves. Like that was the big difference there. Um but I think like that's where Ashley, like I hate to say it, but like her biggest move of the season was evicting Morgan. Like that was the correct read, and like we said, like she had pretty much the exact correct reads the entire season. Like there was never a moment where she said something out loud that was incorrect as far as like who's aligned with who. Like she knew the whole house the entire time. So I don't know. I think like yeah, it's hard because like with competitions you can just stack up like okay, three HOHs, two vetoes versus your two HOHs and five. You know what I mean? Like it's much easier. Um, but I think it also just comes down to like knowing your jury, knowing what they respect, and I think she was just like the right person at the right time to say, okay, Morgan might beat me. Vince, I know the jury. I know how they feel about him. So like I don't need to play like the best winning game of all time. I just need to play a better winning game than like this person right here.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, yeah, and that's what it is. And I do recognize that was probably the strongest move that she made. It's hard for me because that feels like it was the most obvious move was to get rid of Morgan. I feel like the talk for a while had been to get rid of her, but it's in the house. You never know. Everybody's saying different things. Everybody's trying to convince you of certain things. So I don't want to diminish that at all. But it feels like, from our perspective, it felt obvious to get rid of Morgan. I would also say, like, I don't know. It's tough for me. Like, yeah, people in the jury house like her, but that's because she didn't have to do anything. And it almost makes me like our winning competitions, is it not that valuable because you make enemies? I don't know. It's such an interesting thing because like Morgan won a lot. She also mostly won vetoes. She won 2 HOHs, and that was, what was it, Lauren and Ava? I
Yeah.
don't know. It's just tough for me because in my head, the game that Vince played has always been the most successful game. And whenever there's these social wins, they're just, it's, yeah, like I said before, it's so hard for me to quantify. It's so hard for me to piece together. I do think Morgan wins, but the fact that it's close is challenging for me because it feels like Morgan played such a strong game and had so much agency. And Ashley, I guess, had influence for sure, but
Well, I
I don't
think
know.
that's the
I'm
interesting
just like
difference
externally
is
processing as I'm like
yeah, yeah,
figuring
yeah.
this out.
No, I know you're completely right in all of that. Where I think the only reason I think Morgan appears to have like a stronger game is because I think it's more visible, you know, and I think that's like what we're saying is that a social game is hard to visualize, it's hard to see, it's hard to edit, you know, like we're all kind of saying the same things in when you win a competition, it is obvious I won this competition, this person went out on my week, I can count that on my resume. Where Ashley, it's harder to count those things on her resume, but that doesn't mean they're not on there. You know, so it just takes an extra effort of explaining it, and I think again that's what she did so well. I think why I like this win so much is because it does feel like a very old school type Big Brother win. Because I think the past few seasons, um, I think especially like you know Jag's win, where that's like only competition. I think Jag like was that person where his reads were horrible. He kind of like he literally got voted out of the house, you know, like not much of a social game other than like here's my one person that and we're just going to win our way to the end. Like that's kind of all it was, which again, out of him and Matt, yeah, he probably should have won, but like that is a competition win. And I think Ashley, and you're probably going to hate this comparison, but like Dr. Will never won a competition, you know, in his 2 seasons of playing. I actually just realized this today. I don't know if you know this. Maggie from Big Brother 6, she also only won 1 HOH and a veto, which
Yeah.
didn't sound right to me because I always view her as like a very strong winner. So like I think it's just this modern era of I think both Big Brother and Survivor, because there's been Survivor winners that like aren't competition beasts either, you know? So I think it's just a reframing of like what a good game is. And I think I don't know, like I'm grateful that like someone who isn't good at competitions still has the option to win a game like this.
Yeah, I like that they still have an option. It's just, yeah, I don't know what's so hard about it for me. To me, the game is like big risk, big reward. Like winning a challenge means you get, and I guess, yeah. Sorry, just processing as I'm thinking through, and that I don't want to say that. I don't think I agree with what I was gonna say. Yeah, it's just a challenge for me, and in the comparison to Dr. Will and to Maggie, I don't know. Maggie felt like she was for sure the leader of that alliance and was edited in that way. Dr. Will was I liked him, so that's part of it. I'm I'm gonna be upfront with that. That's just part of it. But also you could see I feel like you could see the strategy more. It was more like you can point to the times where he convinced people to do things or made these bold statements that caused people to do these things. Whereas for her, it was just more subtle. I wonder. I don't know the social game specifically. I don't know. I think of Casey from Big Brother 20, but Casey was like a combination of Morgan and Ashley, where she went on that veto run, but then also it was mostly this. It was a good chunk the social game that she played, but she also didn't have to make a ton of decisions. So like, is winning HOH bad because you have to take these shots? And somebody's gonna get blamed. Maybe it's just being the person that gets the blame for burning those bridges. Maybe I don't know.
I mean, like in my mind,
I just
if
said a
you
lot. That felt like
can,
word vomit. I feel like I didn't say anything productive. Sorry, I'm just.
I think in
thinking
my
through
mind,
it.
if you're able to have a part in voting out the people that you want out without having to win a competition, like, why not? You know what I mean? I think like I'm at the point where it's like, why do we view competitions as a resume builder? You know, like if you could, like, if you got two options, like I want to get this person out. Option A, I win a competition, get them out. Option B, I convince people to do it on their HOH. Like, why wouldn't you take option B? You know, and I'm not saying like that's, you know, that's acting like Ashley threw these competitions. I don't think she did. I think she tried and was just bad at them, you know. But
And that's
the
fine.
the point is, like, both her and Vince made it to the end. She just didn't have to get blood on her hands, which to me is almost more impressive.
I think the pushback that I would have is I don't know how many times, and once again, maybe I need to go and review the footage or review what it is. I don't know how many times that she was the one that influenced the person who went home. And to me, I want a Big Brother winner who controlled the game and made it go the way that they needed it to go, not just lucked into, and this is unfair of her game, but lucked into the things that she wanted to happen happening. I
Well,
want
and
somebody who
that's
had
where,
agency, and because you can have agency and not have power. I genuinely believe that, and I think that's where Maggie and Dr. Will, I see that more, and Ashley, I don't see that. Maybe it's just because it was more subtle. Maybe it was through the small conversations and the small, like, making up an inch and an inch and an inch instead of going the whole mile immediately, and that's absolutely possible.
well, that's
And
where
she
I
obviously won her
think,
reason, but
well, that's where I
that's what
think
it is for
the
me.
most of this comes down to the edit. Like, I really do, because I think, like, we talked about it in the weeks when it was happening. And here's my proposal. I think, because like the issue Big Brother has is this is all being done live. They don't know who the winner is, so it's very hard to include the important details. They are including what they think is important at the time, which often leads to a very heavy over edit for someone who might go home pre-jury, right? Happens all the time. I propose they do some form of like don't like erase these episodes, but do some sort of like remix to like just include the winner stuff. So like, now that we know who the winner is, let's go back. Let's see a couple of the confessionals that maybe weren't included in the episode. Let's see the specific conversations that led to this decision that she's claiming. Because I like, okay, so let me just list off the things real quick that I have in my mind that she did, okay? I think the first one that I think I clocked, we talked about, was when Mickey took over Riley's HOH. Ashley was a huge part of that, playing the decoy, right? Where Riley guessed she was the one secret HOH. That was a plan between her, Mickey, and Morgan, and she crushed it, right? Her and Will, when they were on the block together, she was supposed to be the one going home up until the day before, and she flipped the vote to be against Will and convinced everyone that he was so likable and that he'd win in the end. Okay? Like, I think that her staying that week is only because of her. I think the Judges Alliance, great move by her, because again, it includes like two of the most strongest people in the house to now be on your side. I think her staying over Ava was also her move, because like realistically, like they should have kept Ava, but because of all the seeds that she planted for like that entire week, she knew she was going to be safe. And I also think Vince nominating Lauren was a huge part of Ashley. Now, it was Morgan as well, but Ashley was like right up in there confirming with Morgan what she needed to say with Vince. So like, part of the reason that Morgan was so much like, hey, you need to nominate Lauren, it's because Ashley was in Morgan's ear trying to like convince her like, hey, Vince might take Lauren over you in the end. You better fight for this. So again, like, not stuff that was like heavily shown in the episodes, but I think like if we were to go back and they were to like show us a lot more of those details, I think we would get a different picture of like what she was actually doing.
I think that's where, and I don't remember all that as deeply as I think you like the Will Ashley. I don't remember it being Ashley before it being Will, but that absolutely could have been the case. I'm not saying it's not. I think the part that I'm getting hung up on is you're saying that it's an edit issue, and I'm wondering if it was so subtle that there isn't an edit that could make it. I think there would be an edit, but I don't know if there can be an honest edit to what happened that would like give her credit to all these moves. I think that, and her being a part of them is valuable, but I don't know. You can't assign a move to one person entirely. So does she just get credit for the whole thing because she was there for a little bit of it? I don't know. But I think that's the hard part for me is I don't know that all of these moves existed. Not that the edit didn't show them, but that they weren't like solely hers. And like I said, that's not fair to say like, oh, this move is
But like,
solely
can you
hers.
say
None of
that
these
about
moves are
anyone
solely
at that
someone.
point?
Yeah, I know. That's what I'm saying. But like, I don't know. I think maybe it's just because I haven't been a fan that I've given credit to other people, and that's where this is coming from. But I do think that there, to some extent, it's not necessarily an edit issue with social games. I think that it's difficult to see a social game because it has so much to do with how people view you and their impression of you, and that's not a one it's not a one conversation thing. It's throughout time, and I think she was very good at that. I think people wanted to work with her and were working with her and were a fan of her, and she obviously aligned with the right people, and there's value to that. But I just don't know. I don't know if there is a way to edit a social. And maybe I'm shooting myself in the foot by saying that I saw it with Will and saw it with Maggie, and that's absolutely fair. I just don't know that I would see it here.
Yes, but I think part of why you can't see it is because it didn't happen. Like, I think if you throw in a confessional of like her plotting out, hey, I'm having this conversation with this person because this is my goal, and then we see like 10 little conversations, like it's there. And I think the difference is we didn't get to see that before the fact. So like she is telling these details in her final 2 speech. And I think that's where the struggle is, because it's like, oh, were you a part of that? And now we're left to just trust her because we didn't get to see her explain that beforehand. Because, like, I mean, she did have those live feed camera talks where, like, she would plot out her game. Like, these are things she talked about, but again, it just wasn't in the episode. You know, like, she talked about having to dumb herself down because she wanted to come off as, like, this, you know, ditzy personality rather than this, like, well-spoken lawyer or attorney. So, like, I do think it's there. Like, I really do. I just think she didn't have as much diary rooms. Like, she didn't plot out her game. And a lot of that is because she wasn't the star of the show at the time because of the competition wins.
You could be right. I'm not as sure, but hey, agree to disagree.
I will show you her and Will. Okay, that's the number one, because that like 100% was the case.
Yeah,
and, like
I
this
said,
whole
that one I just don't remember. I don't remember that, and so
because like this whole
we
framing
absolutely could have
of
talked about it, but
like the whole framing of Will
that.
being like oh, everyone's gonna vote for him in the end. Like nobody was gonna do that. Like that was completely her narrative that she spun, and she even had a talk with him, and that's why he was like almost in tears at his eviction, because like she admits like, hey, just so you know, like I did campaign against you, and again, right before he walks out the door, jury management, she like softened the blow so that like when it got back to him, he was fine with it.
Yeah, and he was always rooting for her. I don't know if there was much that, and I don't say this to discredit. I don't know if there's much that they were so close that I don't know if there's much that she could have done that would have made him not root for her. He's just that kind of person, I feel like. Unless she was actively like, hey, Will actually sucks, everybody vote him out. I just don't know. Like, yeah, she campaigned. I don't think that was ever going to burn him. But that's part of just aligning with people who are like that and will go to bat for you like that. So this is all me nitpicking, because I do think that she played a really solid game. Well,
if you can't tell from me, I'm ready to say this is a top 10 game. I love it.
Yeah, I was gonna ask, and I don't know.
This is.
But I'd have to look at it.
Okay, here's where I'm at. I think this is my favorite win since, I don't even know, the past 5-6 seasons at least.
I really like Chelsea's. That's the only one that would probably have a conversation.
Here, okay, so I think this is a good, and I was kind of thinking about this earlier. I think the difference between Chelsea's game and Ashley's game, and again, this is maybe just my bias, I think Chelsea's win, while impressive and like, I think if you came down to it, I would have to say she played a stronger game. But I think it's like a more boring game and a more boring ending, which is like not her fault. Like she set herself up for that, and I get that. But that's
the downside to certain games, is if you play such a good game, it's not fun.
Right, where I think this season was exciting because it literally came down to the final moments of the season of like what's going to happen. Where it's like by week 5, 6, we're like, oh, Chelsea's probably going to win and I think a lot of it is like her win was due to the last couple of people in the house really not knowing the game well enough to even know to go after her. And I think Ashley's win is interesting because everyone in the house pretty much knew the game, knew what they needed to do. It was just a matter of them underestimating her in the end. So I don't know. I think that's the difference. But yeah, I mean, Chelsea probably has a stronger win.
But you can like this one more. That's absolutely fair. This is just always a thing that I feel like we disagree on. So this is like an age-old disagreement between us.
Do you want to get back into it? What's the well, what's the question? Would you rather have a big move and not get to the end, or get the end without a big move? Is that?
No, let's not get back into that. I'm not feeling that right now. They don't
All
need to
right.
hear that again. Because I don't think I've budged, and I don't think you've budged. I just don't think so.
But I do think that Ashley's
I also
win.
don't know that this is an example of that argument.
Well, I was gonna say I was kind of trying to think of it a little bit because Ashley's win is interesting because like she didn't have that big like resume move, like she kind of, and I hate to use Rachel's term against her, her bestie, but like she kind of played the floater game in a lot of ways. I think she just framed it in a way where it was the correct thing to do, and I do think like a lot of it came down to, I mean, we didn't even talk about her like, final speech that like moved the jury to tears almost, like pretty epic. But I don't know. I think it was just like the way she framed it, where like she's like, yeah, I didn't have a big move, but I'm still the winner.
Yeah, I think if you had to, I think you could point to Morgan as her big move. You could, but I know what you're saying. Where like, yeah, I don't disagree with you, but I think somebody could have that argument. Yeah, I guess I see that. Yeah, it's so hard because I do feel like Vince did. And I don't think it was entirely him fumbling the bag because I think she did play a solid game. I'll say that a million times, but because I think that people won't believe me by what I'm saying. And maybe that I'm not living up to that. But yeah, I do think Vince not just played poorly. I'm just going to stop because I feel like I'm going to contradict myself and it doesn't feel fair.
Here's what I'll say to wrap the Vince Ashley conversation. Like I said earlier, I don't think he had a chance once he nominated Lauren. I think that was it because the narrative is gone. And I think Ashley successfully never had a narrative that she had to walk back. And I think that's she was playing to win in the sense where she was playing for the final speech. Like that was most of her game, is like, let me make sure that my final speech can kill it. And Vince was hoping that he could have big enough moves where the jury would respect that. And I think that's like why I love the show so much, is because those are two completely opposing games. And they are like, while they want the same goal, they're trying to do it the complete opposite way. And we have seen both of those games win before. And yeah, I think why I like this season and this win so much is because, like I said, it kind of reverts back to what we've seen the past couple seasons. I guess like Taylor didn't have, a big comp win. Hers was, more social. But I think like Xavier's probably similar, where it's like, I think she won 2, same as.
Oh really? I felt like more.
I think it was a veto and HOH. Yeah, isn't that funny?
She's an
I was looking up the stats. It was like, it was very interesting to see like how only in recent years were like comp wins viewed as like very successful, as far as like a resume goes. But yeah,
it's because it's easily quantifiable, and social game isn't.
That's why it requires you to have a great final speech to be able to tell them why your social game was good. And
she was very solid in the questions. Here, what do you think of this? I don't think that Vinny was like looking at his questions, just first initial reaction of his answers. I know that he didn't give the answers that they wanted, and he didn't I don't know that he was fully honest or gave them like what they were looking for in the questions, but he had an answer to everything that didn't feel unreasonable. It's just, Vinny, and you know like how he played his game, and so you could be like, all right, like what are we doing here? But I don't think that, I mean, he maybe hid behind I'm an emotional person thing a little bit too much, but I don't think that his answers were awful necessarily.
No, I think
I just
part of
think
it,
hers were great, and they were already leaning that way most likely.
yeah, and I think part of it too is like he was playing almost like defense the entire time, and
Hmm.
I think a lot of it was she knew what she was getting into, especially the final three. And I don't know if I mentioned this yet, but like it is worth noting like Morgan was gonna take her to the final two. She said it before the episode. She even like had a conversation with Vince, letting him know, and then she's been saying in interviews since. So it's like Ashley successfully convinced Morgan, like, yeah, they might vote for Vince. And so like either way, Ashley was gonna be in the final two. But I think she knew what speech she needed to give for both Morgan and Vince because she knew how the jury viewed them. Where I think Vince had the underhand in this situation because he didn't know Ashley's game. It wasn't as obvious. It wasn't as forefront, and he didn't know how the jury would have viewed her. So I do think she had the upper hand in that, because like a lot of her answers were what they wanted to hear for her game, but also what they wanted to hear about his game. And unfortunately, he was not just he wasn't giving them what they wanted to hear, which is, like kind of what you need to do in that situation.
I think even if he said what they wanted to hear, it was too far gone though.
I think if he would have owned it more and just admitted, like, yeah, Morgan was from this point on, Morgan was my final two, and I was more concerned about keeping her than the rest of you. I think having some secret would have helped. you know,
I don't like that. I think I just actively don't like that anymore. This idea that like you have some sort of, well, I guess when you say secret, you probably mean something. I went like secret occupation or something about yourself that you hold back. That annoys me, and it sucks because it benefited Ashley big time because she handled herself very well. Both of them felt like they had so much prepared to say, and it's almost like the most prepared I feel like we've seen two finalists in a while, where they like had it laid out. Where Julie had to stop them like 5 or 6 times, like, "All right, that's enough. Shut up." Like we get it, we get it. But yeah, I feel like they were like super. I don't know where I was going, but that was just a side note. That they felt super
yeah.
prepared and super ready for any question that was asked.
Well, I think here's like a little bit of a difference, and where I don't mind the secret occupation as much. I think if you can use that to benefit your game and explain that, I think it's great. Because I think like Derek's probably the best example where his occupation absolutely helped his gameplay. And then he drops that bomb, right? And I think Ashley was sort of similar because like she was able to utilize that and also hide it and in fact like change her personality in a way to help benefit her game. So I don't know, I think like that's where it was good because like the reveal wasn't just a reveal alone. It was a reveal like here's my reveal and here's why it helped my game.
Yeah. Yeah, I definitely see what you're saying. And I do think it helped like for both of them, it helped their game a lot. For a second I was like it just helped her final argument, but no, she was making our season for sure. Um but I don't know, it just I think I don't like the like, and this contradicts things that I've said before too. I don't like the flashy nature of like, oh, joke's on you guys, I'm actually an attorney. And it's just like, so like does that make what you did better? Like, no, you played a good game and you like convinced a lot of people to do things. Like, oh, and it sucks because Derek, I've always been a big fan of his where he's like, oh, I'm actually undercover, but he was able to like blend in with people. And I think that's the most interesting thing. Maybe that's what it does. Maybe it brings validity to what you did. And it's like, oh, there was an intentionality to it because I'm experienced with this and I was able to utilize that. Do you think that maybe that's what it is? That makes
I
it
think
so
so,
good?
and I think that's kind of what I'm saying where I think like look at Survivor last year. What was Ava's thing? She's like studying to get her like doctorate or something.
Yeah.
And it's kind of like, well, that doesn't really mean anything to your game. You
She's
know what I mean?
smarter than you expect, but
You
she didn't play a
just
smart game, so it doesn't matter.
all you
So yeah,
did was
maybe
admit a
mm,
detail about your life. That's not
mhm.
cool. But like what Derek did and what Ashley did was use those skills and hide where those skills came from.
Mhm.
And I think that's
Yeah.
where Ashley was like, because again, I mean, she said this on the live feed. I think we talked about it like weeks ago when she's like admitted that she's playing dumb, and it, so like the fact that she was able to like, oh yeah, by the way, house guest, like the reason I was able to be so persuasive, but also be under the radar, that was all intentional, and I think that was what makes the reveal successful for the resume.
I think it's less that she did it. I think it's that we've seen like 15 attorneys or lawyers in the last like 5 years that
for
have
sure.
all been like, I'm going to hide this because this is important. And the vast majority of those, not all, because obviously we have a couple winners that were attorneys, but a lot of them were not good. Like it didn't add validity. It's like, oh, you're actually a lawyer? You're not very good at this though. Like what's up with that? And so I think that's maybe where it comes from. And so already that's an annoying thing that so many people want to hide this and it doesn't matter. That when it does matter, it just immediately gets filed away too annoying in my head.
No, and that's fair. I agree. I think a lot of people have like, because I think it was this season actually, where like half the cast said they weren't gonna say like their real occupation, and I think like even Morgan was planning a big reveal because like in the house they didn't know she was like a gamer, and so I think you're right in that the reveals themselves have gotten stale, but I again I think it's because they don't actually amount to anything. And so I think like if you're going to do that, at least show how it helped your game. And I don't think people can do that.
Yeah, like I could see somebody like me being like, "Oh, I'm a data analyst, but I'm gonna hide that because then they'll know I'm smart, and I don't want them to think I'm smart." And that's just, I think that bugs me more than anything. Like if I went on the show, I'd be like, "Yeah, I'm a data analyst. Like that's what I do. Like I analyze pharmaceutical claims. Like it doesn't make me good at Big Brother." And yeah, obviously I'll use some of the like critical thing, but like putting so much weight behind your job, I don't know. I don't love it, but
Here's what I would do.
It's fair in her case.
Here's what I would do. I would lie and just say, so like if I don't know, like if I was a data analyst or whatever. Like let's say you're just a normal person. I would lie about my job, get to the end, and be like, yeah, I lied about this occupation. It didn't have anything to do with it. I just wanted to prove that I could lie for this long. Just for fun.
I would like that more. I would like that more.
I don't want you to take that in consideration at all. I just wanted to this was my chance to be someone new.
I came in this house to lie, and so I lied. Like I would love that more than like I'm a gamer. You guys didn't know that, but I'm really good at video games. How that helped me in this house where there's not a single screen, who knows? There's just the one.
There's a screen.
There's a couple, I guess.
How else did they watch the Mastermind all season?
That's true. Should we get into the Mastermind? I think we should.
As that was happening, I just kept saying, I hate this show so much. I hate it.
Just an absolutely outrageous amount of cameos from former players. But let me tell you, Nathan, I was delighted to see Eric from Big Brother 8 just in the Big Brother house again. That was an absolute treat to just see him there again.
Yes, that was probably the one where I was like, okay, I can accept this.
You've seen Mr. Spectacular a million times.
Well,
Dr. Will, it's always a treat to see Dr. Will, but like that didn't do anything for me.
No, absolutely nothing. I did like how this was almost an admittance, like, hey, we've had such horrible twists before, so that's our reason for having this horrible twist. Like,
I wanted the last one to be Rachel.
I had that thought. I'm like, are they gonna bring out what's her name about like Pandora's box? Like, I really thought that was gonna happen.
No, I thought Rachel was gonna be like, oh, this one, and then Rachel comes in and was like a part of it the whole time. I wanted that. I wanted her to be like, oh, I intentionally lost it. The reason I fought so hard to go do that wheel is because I knew that I needed to lose that competition so that like this twist of me being in the house would go through correctly.
Yeah,
I don't know if that would have made me feel better.
Yeah.
Huh?
I think we
would make me
mentioned
feel
that
a
when
little
she
bit
went
better.
out. Like, if she was the mastermind, like, would that be better or worse? And I do think it'd be better just because, I don't know. I think, like, Rachel going out with no eviction does paint a weird light on this season as far as, like,
Yeah.
what would have happened.
It would be precedented, I would think, though, in a way. Because, like, because if that was the case and she just lived in the house and there was never any intention of her actually being a player, she was the mastermind, she had to get out of the house somehow, so they did it that way. All right. The immediate response to that would be, yeah, but she influenced the game for 8 weeks, 9 weeks. Like, that sucks. Why is that okay?
Yeah.
And
Well,
I think
so
the
did
response
Mooch.
would be America's favorite house guest has been a thing multiple times. And one of them, he literally could not make a decision in the game. He could make social decisions, to be fair. But, like, he won HOH and he couldn't nominate who he wanted to. He won veto and he couldn't use it the way that he wanted to use it. Like, his votes were America's votes. So we've seen it before where there's been somebody in the house that influences the game. America is a little bit different than Rachel. I would that's a fair thought, but it is what it is. I think that, unfortunately, for you being a fan of Ashley, the season will always be tainted by that. And so, and that in that twists like that affect the way that I view people's wins. It affects how I view Rachel's win.
Yeah.
It affects how I view even Jordan's win, because Jesse was cooking that season. Like, he was a problem and could have very well won that season. And so I think that's unfortunately going to taint her legacy. Not that she didn't play a good game, but I think having Rachel in the jury house and not having to vote her out, I think would have maybe benefited her. But maybe you disagree.
Here's where I disagree. I think all those twists that are mentioned all helped the winner's game. I don't think Rachel going out when she did helped Ashley's game. In fact, I think Ashley had to recover from that. I think if Vince would have won, then this would be much more of a conversation as far as, like, well, if Rachel was still in the house, he wouldn't have made it as easy. You know, like when Jordan won, it's because her biggest nemesis went out. You know, when Dick won, it's because Eric went out. Like, I don't know. I don't think Rachel going out, I don't think helped Ashley's game.
I think there are positives and negatives, but I think having Rachel in the jury house was valuable because I think she is a very convincing person and somebody that everybody else listens to. I think that losing your number one, I always think losing a huge ally is valuable for you, because very well, if people wanted to take a shot at Rachel, they might have thrown Ashley and Will up next to her, and then you could be collateral damage. And so that wasn't an issue for her anymore. To be fair, she went up against Will and survived, so that did happen. I'm not going to pretend that didn't happen. But I do think there was value to, like, having her as somebody who's fighting for you. I think there's an argument. That's all I'm saying. I think there's an argument. I definitely see where you're coming from.
You're stretching. You're trying real hard.
No, there's an argument.
You're not.
For you to pretend there's not is intellectually dishonest, and I'm disappointed in you, quite frankly.
There's no way being like, oh yeah, it's better for her that her number one ally and the one vet in the house is gone now.
We've said that a million times about a ton of players. Let's not pretend that we haven't said that before.
Yeah, but I think it's good, but I also think it's great if your allies are in the game.
You can't absolutely dismiss it, though. When we've talked about that so many times, it's unfair
fine,
for you to be like, "No,
fine,
that's
we
not
talked
true.
about
It doesn't count."
The point is, you brought this up as in, like, this taints Ashley's win, and I don't think it does, because I don't think, like, again, Jesse getting voted out in season 11 essentially gave Jordan the win. I don't think Rachel going out, like, Rachel wasn't an obstacle in Ashley's game. Whereas the other twists...
If she ended up next to Rachel, she certainly would have been.
What, on the block or...
In the final, like, if she rode with Rachel, I don't know that she beats Rachel, and she won one challenge. If they end up next to each other, I don't think Ashley wins. Yeah, maybe
sure. I mean,
somebody
like,
takes Rachel out, but it's tough to say.
That's a hypothetical. Like, if Ashley's against Morgan, if Ashley is against Keanu, if Ashley is against, the point is, I'm saying it's not the same comp, because whatever. We're going in circles. I like Ashley, you don't. That's no.
I gave up earlier. You gave up this one.
I'm just gonna remember this for future. Okay.
All right.
Tony needs competitions. He doesn't like social wins, and he doesn't like what else doesn't he like? I don't know.
Ashley.
That's true. I mean, I'll give it to you. You've been consistent all season.
I've said a million times. I think she she definitely deserved the win here. I think she played a good game. But I think there's nuance, Nathan.
Okay, fine. Nuance.
Do I owe you money for America's favorite player or house guest?
I think so. Right?
Yeah. How much did we say? Like
65%. I think so. Whatever.
All right.
You can buy me lunch next time.
All right. Sounds good.
Joke's on you. Lunch is way more than $5 these days.
Frick. Dang it. Why did I agree to that?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think I'm surprised. Are you a little surprised? Because you initially didn't think he'd get it. Like 65% is a lot.
I just felt like everybody was gonna. I assumed that there would be a groundswell for Rachel as like a justice for Rachel, and I'm surprised there wasn't. I don't know if it's because the normies really like Keanu. People really like Keanu.
Well, and I think you're forgetting
people really like Keanu.
A lot of the normies don't like Rachel. Like Rachel isn't this like
That's true.
fan favorite. I think among like
That's
alumni
true.
maybe, but I think like the people in the Facebook group never liked her.
I think that this is a whole other thing, and I don't want to open a can of worms. One of the reasons I don't like Rachel is because she acts like she's loved by everybody. And I just like, oh, I'm a legend. I'm so great. And that's just like, you're not everybody's cup of tea.
If there's one thing about you, you love humility. You really appreciate humility in players. That is consistent.
Is that a bad thing? Is that a
no?
bad
I'm just saying. I'm saying you are consistent because a lot of times, what you dislike in people is when they are full of themselves.
I love Dr. Will, and he's the most full of himself than anybody would be. So there's nuance.
What about Frankie?
Frankie, so sorry. What about him?
I don't know. Full of himself. Like him, hate him. Where are we at? Does he need to be more humble?
Yeah.
Okay.
Final answer.
Yeah. Keanu winning America's Favorite House Guest. Who was the third? Oh, Will was the third. Which I think at that point it was just like there's no one else that everyone else is just disliked, you know? That's kind of what it is. I was like, well, I don't think anyone's like a Will fan. I think he's just like, yeah, there's nothing wrong with him.
He grew up on me for sure, but yeah, I don't love Will by any means.
Like I guess someone has to have third place.
Yeah. He had third place with like 3%.
What else is there to talk about? I mean,
Julie said they're see you next summer, so they're renewed for a new season, I assume. I don't know if that was already news or anything, but I was like, oh, she specifically said.
I feel like I always just assume there is. I don't know.
Me too, but I always question how many people are actually watching Big Brother because there's so few people that I see in real life that watch Big Brother.
Yeah, I mean the numbers aren't great, but like most primetime TV shows aren't, so I think it's a cheap enough show that it's good for a summer where CBS doesn't have like the regular programming, so they can just throw this on 3 nights a week, 4 nights if you're counting Unlocked.
Mm-hmm.
Like there was a lot of CBS Big Brother content.
Yeah, it's surprising because it's not nearly as big as any of their other shows. I feel like, at least Amazing Grace and Survivor.
Do we want to talk about any final Vincent Morgan thoughts, or are we just over it?
Is there any update since they left the house? I think that's what I care about more than anything.
I mean, they've had their exit interviews. Vince has been asked about it, and every time he's asked about it, he goes, yeah, I know, people are making comments, but, we're just friends, and blah, 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 I'm sure. And
do we know if he's talked to Kelsey yet?
Well, at the time of the exit interviews, he hadn't talked to anyone. So I'm assuming he knows now, but the interviews he did not. Someone did ask him, like, well, she wasn't at the finale. Does that concern you at all? And he said, it's like, well, yeah, I think it's just for parents. Like, there were only 2 tickets. So, like, she's fine. And another interview I saw, I watched them all. I just had to know. Another interview, he mentioned that... I
almost delayed us recording so that we could just see if anything came out.
He in another interview, he said he's confident that Kelsey is secure enough that she won't have a problem with it, which I don't really love because that kind of implies if she has a problem with it, it's because she's insecure. So I didn't love that
Agreed.
wording, but
She needs to grow up.
he's still running with the narrative that they're just friends. But
Hey,
I don't
up
know.
until that point, it seemed to be working from his perspective.
Yeah, I mean, I guess you can't stop now. Like, he can't turn it and be like, yeah, I think we're done. Like, he has to keep it up until he hears from her, which, like I mentioned, I think was his plan the whole time. Like, let me just do all this and force her to have to choose for me. I don't know.
Yeah.
Whatever.
I don't think we're going to see him again, and I don't know that I want to see him again. I don't think I do want to see him again.
Here's what I'll say. I think this season isn't the same without him. And this is where, like,
Yeah.
I genuinely hope he's okay. And I hope this doesn't completely ruin his life because this is the type of TV I want to see. As horrible as that sounds, like, I still stand by this season was very entertaining. There wasn't a single week where I didn't, like, no week was predictable. And even the weeks that were, there was still stuff to watch because it was entertaining. It was dramatic. Like, up until the final three, like, it really could have been anyone's game, proven by the fact that Ashley won, right? I think it could have been anyone's game. And I think he's a big part of that. And I think the more hate he receives, like, online for the stuff he did in the house, the more that discourages future house guests from, like, making big moves and being dramatic and being messy. And, like, that's what I want to see. So, like, I do hope that, like, I don't know, he's okay. And, like, the internet doesn't completely destroy him because I'm kind of worried because usually the internet doesn't handle these things well.
Yeah, Big Brother, when it's like bland and nobody's like doing, yeah, you kind of want some of that messiness. I even thought of like people wanted Evil Dick to stay in the house, and he was awful, but that's what entertained people in 2008. But now everybody has to be, I don't know, you want everybody to be good, and that's just not realistic or not entertaining anymore. And so I
Yeah.
definitely agree. Like I'm not one to love the drama, but it makes things more interesting, and I think I enjoy that piece of it. I'd rather that than it be boring and nothing be happening.
Yeah, completely agree. So I don't know. I'm not saying I want to see him again, but I want to see players like him. Especially, man, that crash out of him losing to Ashley. That's an all timer. I love
Imagine
those
losing to
moments.
Ashley, though. I'm so stupid. It's like, dude, take it easy.
I don't deserve to win. Like, wah!
Right?
Oh man, I'm gonna miss his outbursts. That's for sure.
If he takes out Morgan, do you think it's the same outcome?
If he takes out Morgan, I think it's a little different because I think Keanu in his exit interview he did credit Ashley like that was the biggest move of the season. Morgan would have won. So like Vince takes away a big resume move for her, but I like if his answers remain the same and hers remain the same, then I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm probably in the same spot. It just would inform things so differently. Like if he did that, then it's like, oh, he's just completely cutthroat and he's willing to cut everybody. His answers would have to change if he cut. They just would. And so
That's true. Yeah.
he had backstabbed everybody. And yeah, if you're just like, hey, I needed to get here, I wanted to win, and I was willing to do anything. And yeah, all the friendships that I had were real, and that's why I was emotional. But at the end of the day, I needed to do what I needed to do. I'm curious. I think
Yeah.
Ashley still wins. I do, but it would be an interesting scenario to see.
Is there anything with the pre-jury stuff, or was that all?
Riley was there.
He was there, and I think we have to
They're
shut
still
up about
together.
it because, yeah, I mean, the fact that Catherine now has all the information and is still with him, out of our hands, right? Like,
Yeah, she's made her decision, and yeah. Well, there's the aspect of like, and okay, no, I don't want to get into that. I'll say it after we get off. I don't want to get into that.
all right, I trust you. subscribe to our Patreon if you want the
Yeah, let's get a Patreon.
the uncensored thoughts of Tony on Catherine
That's
and
gonna be
Riley.
the $5 that I owe you. It's just that first Patreon because everyone's gonna be curious.
Oh man. Yeah, I mean, Amy was revealed to be the mastermind's accomplice. Whatever.
Oh,
I loved Morgan's response, like, I can't believe she pulled it off. Like, what do you mean she didn't do anything? She turned
until
off the
last
lights.
week, they asked about the like timer that counted down under the stairs because that was apparently just there all season then, and so you could press the button and it would count down like 15 minutes every time, but nothing would happen. So they were like, "What was that? What's this for? This must be something."
The fact that the mastermind had 3 separate masks that were like barely different,
Yeah,
all with clues. Like,
it was.
this wasn't there wasn't a game to play. It's not like Big Brother said, like, you have to figure out who the mastermind is. Why were they leaving clues if it didn't, like, matter?
That's I like the fact that there were clues, but yeah, that's frustrating that it wasn't like find out who this is and one person will win this money or something.
Yes. Make it mean literally anything. None of it meant anything. And like we said, the whole, like, the what was it called? The white locusts, completely irrelevant to the theme. They just wanted to include a popular show. Like, I don't know. I hate it. I hate all of it. When the season started, I was kind of intrigued. I'm like, oh, what if there's an extra game here of finding out who, like, they have to, they're pulling the traitors, try to figure out who it is. No, none of it mattered. None of it. Big Brother doesn't, they don't know how to do this stuff. They just don't.
Having like a mastermind where they get to pick a third nominee instead of the HOH or something.
Yes.
Or like the accomplice gets to pick until you get rid of them or something, and then the appears. So you have an incentive to try to get that person out, because then only 2 people are getting nominated and the game gets easier. They should pay me.
Yeah. Anyways, anything else? What else is there? Is that all?
I think that's all I got. I would need time to figure out where like this season would rank or that she would rank as a winner.
Yeah, same. Although, like I said, I think outside of Chelsea, I think Xavier's kind of hard to measure.
Xavier's the tough one, if I'm thinking of just the 20s.
But again, like I said, I think why I value her game so much is because it is so different than all those wins. I think, like, Chelsea, Xavier, Cody, Jackson, Mickey, like, those are all similar games.
Similar-ish to Taylor.
I think so too.
Scenario. I think the game went very differently for them, but I think the like style of gameplay was very similar.
I agree. If we're comparing those two, I would put Ashley above her, just for the sense of more overall
People
control.
Hated Taylor for 3 weeks. They only hated Ashley for 1 week.
Right.
Based on time. But yeah, I know what you're saying.
Yeah, but no, I think that's the best comp. Which Taylor apparently drafted her in the draft. Her and Derek did, which I wasn't aware of. So congrats on Taylor.
Yeah, I didn't watch any of those. I don't think.
I didn't watch a single Unlocked. No, that's not true.
I watched the first one.
I watched a little bit of the bait and switch they did on the Sunday episode, where the first 30 minutes were just Unlocked, and they didn't say anything about it.
First 30 minutes.
Yeah, I didn't know. I turned on Big Brother like at the start time, like ready. I was like, all right, Big Brother's on. I guess I'll turn it on. And then it was like, oh, you got me. So I was kind of like in and out of the room, but
razzle dazzled, yeah.
And that's when I saw they called in Jerry O'Connell on a boat up in Rylander, Wisconsin.
Oh, I did see that.
I saw that live. That was freaking out to my wife. But look. Does not care about any of the overlap. All right. That's all I got. Fun season.
I had fun. I'm still like defending that it's a fun season to people.
I would be really curious to have a conversation with someone who prefers, because in my mind, this is the most entertaining modern season since like 20.
I would say overall totality, yes. I would say
from
peak
start to
Tucker
finish,
is tough to beat.
yes, agreed.
But yeah, like, I would agree totality. I think that's true.
So I'm really curious for people who don't like this, like, what is it that they are wanting? You know, like, do they just want an Xavier, a Cody, a Chelsea that just like bullies their way to the end? Not bullying, that sounds bad. That powers their way to the end. I meant that as a compliment. I don't know.
That wasn't supposed to be mean. I'm sorry.
I meant bully, like, whatever.
Yeah. Did you call all three of those Did you call the jury roundtable moderator a...
We didn't even talk about that. That's how little it mattered.
Yeah.
All right.
I will say, just while we're on it, Rachel was like really rude to everybody in that roundtable. It felt like she was just like, "You're an idiot for thinking that." It's like, all right, that's not fun. That's just mean. Like, come on, what are we doing here?
Hey, she was still way nicer than her peak form in season 12 and 13.
True.
So there's that.
True. It's sliding scale. That's on me. I should recognize that.
She's growing. She's a mom now.
Proud of her.
Yeah. Well, anyways, thanks for listening, everyone, for the season. We'll be back for Survivor, which is still happening. Now we can fully switch over to Survivor mode, which will be fun, I guess. Yeah, for more episodes, you know where to find us. We're on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, anywhere you listen to podcasts. Follow us on Instagram, Twitter, TikTok, YouTube at NGAPpod. That's at NGAPpod. I'm Nathan. This is Tony, and we will see you next season for Big Brother.
Shout out all my dogs at the crib.